Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and thanks for tuning in to the Dealer Insights podcast, where we go under the hood, bumper to bumper, and just about everywhere in between, discussing topics important to dealers of all types and sizes. Your time is valuable, so thanks for riding along for this episode of Dealer Insights.
Welcome back to Dealer Insights. It's Sean and Vinny, and how's it going, Vinny?
Good. How are you, Sean?
We're doing well. Excited for this episode. We always appreciate everybody tuning in, listening to Dealer Insights. We know a lot of you guys get a lot of this content once we cut it up into smaller pieces. So if you happen to be one of those people that are seeing some of these pieces of content out on the Strolid LinkedIn page or Facebook, anywhere you might be out there, Instagram, don't forget there's oftentimes a link to the entire episode, and check out the Strolid YouTube channel because we keep all of the clips there as well as the entire episode. So today we're going to get into really three specifics, three things that you could do at your dealership right now to help your BDC. And there's three core areas that, Vinny, that I really want to dig in with you. The first one is on pricing. Like, I don't think enough people, we get way beyond the 101 of what we're supposed to be doing, and we forget about some things that are kind of key, and making sure vehicles are priced accordingly. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, what happens when you do it right, and maybe more importantly, what lessons should we be learning when that's not consistent?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I've been in the business a long time, one of the things I've always tried to do, and I think it's helped my success to some degree, is to look at business not from a selfish point of view, but I try to look at it from my employees' point of view, from my dealer's point of view. But really what I look at is I've always looked at business that I was either running or in charge of from a customer point of view and not the dealer. Like, how would I observe a dealership from the outside looking in? And I don't think we do that enough, But pricing is definitely one. You and I both had sons that made bad purchases recently. Hopefully he doesn't hear us. Hear us both of them hear us say that. But it's been a challenging 3 years, Sean, for pricing, right? First couple of months of the pandemic, there was no one buying cars. At Strolid, we saw a ton of leads coming in, and we predicted successfully that there was going to be a big, demand, pent-up demand for cars, and the floodgates opened that summer. And obviously, the manufacturer slowed down, the chip shortage, during that time, we were selling everything we had, and everyone was happy. But what I think we neglected to look at was that the inventory is drying up. So over the last year and a half, it's been really, really a very strange time for me as being a dealer for 27 years. The one thing I never thought I would ever see was no inventory. It's never happened. Don't get me wrong. There's certain vehicles that come out like, Priuses, gas prices go up and you can't get them and so forth and so on. Or, economical vehicles, or now gas is $2 a gallon and the big rigs start selling again. But no new meant more people looking for used, which increased the demand for used as well. And then, when there's an increase in demand and a low supply, the prices go up. I mean, if you've ever taken macroeconomics, that's one of the first things you learn, right? So from the customer point of view, I try to look at it. And I try to look at it from my own point of view. If I was a customer, how would I? So it's kind of like the housing market right now, Sean. If you have a house to sell, you're all right. But if you have no house to sell, you're going to overpay. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
So what is the customer's point of view? I'm going to shop more. Now, here's the interesting part about shopping is, since, by the way, there's been no decrease in leads or calls, but what we have seen is less engagement at Strolid. So, you can kind of figure it out, right? Your car's priced too high. You're shopping Car Gurus or Cars.com or Auto Trader. You're comparing prices. You're comparing mileage. You're comparing colors. Why would you engage with the place that's priced, cars overpriced? And I can tell you, there's a lot of pricing has a lot of different effects on a BDC, because the BDC is the first line of defense for your dealership. And less engagement means less appointments, which means the dealers get, upset with their BDC. I don't think it's necessarily the BDC's fault. It's not the dealer's fault. It's just what's happening, right? Like, that's how I look at data, Sean. I don't look at data and say, oh, you suck, or you're good, or you're bad, or you're, inept, or you're a green pea, or you're a veteran. Or I look at it and say, what's wrong? What can we do by analyzing this information to maybe fix or adjust to the current situation? And that's one thing, you and I did a podcast on AI. That's one thing that AI can't do, is use that experience to make that decision based on, a critical thinking, right? Mm-hmm. And so somebody within the dealership has to have the experience to be able to look at this data and say, there's a lot of interesting things that come out of inventory data. Dealers, one of the things, though, by the way, I empathize with dealers because they have so many things to look at. They got web analytics, they got vehicle analytics, they got their own website analytics and digital marketing. Then they got all these vendors sending reports and data, all coming at them. So, one of the things I feel like I did very well when I worked for that big dealer group I used to work for was to kind of look at simplifying it. What is the most important information to look at first? Mm-hmm. And then you can always drill in. But when you get overloaded with these mountains of reports and data, it's like really hard for a dealer to make sense of it all. You got CRM analytics to look at too, by the way, that I didn't even mention. I mean, I'm not mentioning a lot of data that these dealers now have to look at. So I think as a company, we do a really good job at helping the dealer look at a lot of this stuff and bring it to their attention. But my advice is to keep it simple, at least at the start. With most, merchandising and looking at demand is really important. A BDC is the first to know when a dealer priced a car too low, for example. Why? Because the leads go up on that particular car. The calls go up on that particular car. A BDC is the first, our data actually is showing, and we're seeing vehicles that are priced right, positioned right, are moving extremely fast. If you're right out of the gate, merchandising your car properly. A lot of indications right now, wholesale's back up because it was coming down. Now it's back up. March was lead volumes were significantly up in March. But what's down? What's down is the engagement. People don't need to come into your dealership. They can shop online. They are filling out leads. They are asking pricing questions. How are you answering those questions is really, really important. Within Strolid, we have sheets of info for every dealer, and it's getting out of control, to be honest with you. Every dealer, well, this car, tell them they have to come in to get a price, and this car, keep them at sticker. And I'm sure a lot of dealers are doing that. Don't tell them that we won't go over sticker and all this other weird stuff. It's like, the problem I have with it is how I started the conversation, Sean. I'm looking at it from the consumer standpoint. I had a professor at NADA used to say, I understand why we do what we do. I just don't understand why we do what we do. One of my conversations with one of my dealers recently, when he was telling me he wants us to get them in, don't talk price. I was like, what are you going to tell them when they come into the showroom? Why can't we tell them?
Yeah, that's an old game too, right?
Oh, sure, it sure is.
I mean,
but what can you do? That's what we're here for, right?
Mm-hmm.
First look at vehicle demand, and we have a vehicle demand report we give our dealers every month. It shows the volume of leads that come in on all your new and used cars. Now, most good new GSMs and sales managers could probably tell what's on that lead list for new, because they order cars all the time. So they know what's in demand. They know what's hot. But here's a little example. Back in 2009, when gas prices shot way up to like almost $5 a gallon, guess what was in demand? Economical vehicles, Priuses. There was like a year wait. selling $5,000 over sticker for a Prius and stuff like that in certain markets. And when you looked at the lead report, guess what you saw? A lot of Prius leads. So I used to tell my general managers, like, you're paying for these leads from some of these third-party companies. Do you need to pay for a Prius lead?
Yeah, we do.
No, but again, I'm not trying to make them look stupid. I'm saying, here's the data. This is what's actually happening. You know, I was in a used car, a Mercedes store that we have. And the GM was basically saying we are doing a terrible job on used leads. And I said, okay, can you explain what you mean by that? And he said, well, we got 120 used car leads last month. But we only, you guys only set, like something like 20 appointments. And, 10 of them showed, and I think 6 of them bought, which isn't bad, show ratio and purchase ratio, right? Mm-hmm. So I pull up my lead demand report. 56 of those leads were on a Colorado. He's a Mercedes dealership, on a Chevy Colorado. And I go, well, what happened with this Colorado? We got a lot of leads on it. He goes, oh, my God, why are you asking about that vehicle? And I said, because we got 56 leads on it. He goes, oh, my God, I kept dropping the price on that thing because it smelled like smoke. We couldn't get the smell out. No one wanted to buy it, so we sent it to auction. So now you take the 130 leads, you minus 60 or so. Now you're down to 70 leads, and our numbers look good.
Right. Yeah. Which
no one takes the time to do that because they don't have the time because they got so much data. So my first indication, the first thing you should look at is how much demand are you getting on the vehicles you're selling? And our report does that. And I think, frankly, you could probably get your CRM company to give you the same report. So you know how many used car leads you got on each car. And here's the problem, Sean. What about the vehicles that aren't getting leads?
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't they?
Yeah.
Now, clearly, if a Chevy Colorado got 56 leads, there was something about that vehicle.
That's got to be a record of some kind.
Yeah. There was something about that vehicle that got that much traffic.
Mm-hmm.
And what did he say? I kept dropping the price. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that speaks very much to, he gave several different examples here, but pricing vehicles, right? I mean, he clearly, if he was lowering the price steadily and continuously, you're going to get a lot of people's attention because that's one of the things that sticks out as an anomaly when the consumer is doing a search on, hey, I'm looking for a Chevy Colorado, and you see one around the same year that you're looking for, if you're searching by mileage, whatever your criteria is, the low price leader is going to show up. A lot of people set their filters to be like, okay, well, let's go lowest to highest and see what we find. That anomaly sticks out. Of course, you're going to get a ton of them.
Sure. And I'm sure if we get some good used car people and good car guys and girls out there listening to this, they're probably getting frustrated saying, oh, yeah, you don't understand how hard it is, blah, blah, blah. No, I do. But understanding today's consumer is what I do best. And today's consumer is shopping. Auto just came out with a statistics that 70% of people are looking at cars online only. Meaning, they used to go to look at online and then go to 2 or 3 places to look at different vehicles, stuff like that. They're not even doing that anymore. I mean, very, very few of them. All of them are looking online. I'm saying 70% are only looking online.
Yeah.
They're not looking anywhere else. There's another study came out recently showing, advertising spend. I mean, TV, radio, print is getting virtually nothing nowadays. So I remember the days, Sean, you remember, when we couldn't get 20% of their budget.
I do.
It makes us old.
I do remember thinking, well, maybe you could get just like, 10 to 20% of the budget to explore in this digital area. I'm like, I doubt it. We might be able to get $500, man. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And how much did you spend on the weekend newspaper ad?
Shopping for a car isn't like shopping for a pair of sneakers or some golf equipment or whatever. or a Christmas gift online, like you can go on Amazon. But think about the Amazon experience for a second. You're looking at different products. Which one do you end up buying on Amazon? You look at reviews, you look at price. If it's the same product and one place has it for less than another, and they have good reviews and they can deliver it in a day or two, you're going to buy it. It's just really quick. You're making that really quick assessment of the situation. This is a car. So merchandising is really what we need to talk about here. What can you do first? Look at the vehicle demand report. This should tell you a lot and probably tell you things you don't want to know or would rather not know. But certain vehicles aren't getting much attention. Why is that? What could you do to get it more attention? It's not always about dropping the price, because dropping the price, you might have a real special vehicle that nobody else has. You need to explain that, why it's special, Yeah. And this is old school stuff. But the point I'm trying to make is pricing is what drives. On new, this is on used. On new, just be transparent. That's what customers want. If you're selling the car $3,000 over MSRP, tell them you're selling the car $3,000 over MSRP.
Yeah.
But understand that it is a market. So if you're selling it $3,000 over MSRP, hopefully your competitors are doing the same, or you're going to lose customers. Yeah. Why is that important? Your customer, who you spend all this money in advertising to get, is now defecting somewhere else because they're not at $3,000 over on MSRP.
Yeah,
they're at sticker price. I'm not saying dealers have to. I'm just saying know your market. And there's lots of data. And I mean, really, the best way to do that is to shop your competition.
I think that's a big piece of the pricing vehicles is just, you just said it. Just know your competition, know your market really well. How it's not that difficult for dealers who are pros, they've been in it a long time. Survey your market. You probably already know more than half the dealers and how they price their stuff. That's a really critical piece, though, just so you don't end up, adopting a strategy or more executing on a strategy that's completely absent of the knowledge of what your competitors are doing locally. Once you know that, I like your idea, which is just tell them how you're pricing. I think that's the biggest and has been the biggest frustration for consumers for many years. It's just be transparent, even if you have this.
Well, I don't want to lose a deal for $1,000. At one of my competitors. I'm like, yeah, well, you're losing it anyway.
Exactly.
And guess what? Not only are you losing it anyway, but your BDC's taking a pounding by trying to convince. We used to run an ad back in the early 2000s in the Boston Globe on a Toyota Camry that was probably MSRP around $20,000, and we used to advertise it for 13 with one stock number. You know how many customers got upset about that? But everybody was doing it back then. Mm-hmm. So again, if everybody's doing it and you don't advertise your vehicle for 13 grand, they're going somewhere else, was the thought process.
Yeah.
So you really need to understand your market. I mean, the used car market, there's so many tools to understand whether your car's priced good, bad, or fair. I was on Car Gurus the other day looking for my son for a truck just to see what was out there. You wouldn't believe how many cars are priced at bad or fair. I was just sitting there wondering, did the dealers even know this? Why are you spending money with Car Gurus and your cars are showing up as bad deal?
Yeah, that's not. Why would you want to do that?
Well, the demand is high, the supply is low, so they don't really care what Car Gurus has to say because they know they're going to sell it. Okay, great. Then why are you spending money with Car Gurus?
Yeah. Oh man,
they're not helping you, And there's all kinds of ways of manipulating the system, and the industry is riddled with that. But at the end of the day, to end on pricing, Sean, because I know we want to talk. We have 3 topics to talk about.
Yeah.
The problem is people do not need to come to your showroom and see your vehicle anymore.
Yeah.
Your BDC needs to be able to handle that situation without basically saying, come on down, we'll take care of you when you're here, kind of thing. You know what I mean? It just doesn't work really anymore.
Come on down.
We had a guy in the market.
We've been saying that for a long time, right? To come on down. Well, next thing I want to get into, and because I think all that's good, is a lot of great info on pricing and merchandising and all helpful. There's another couple of things that I want to get into your thoughts about. One of the next one is really on the confirmation of appointments. Again, I think sometimes the things that are on the more simple side, we've talked about it for years. Hey, act as if you're a professional organization, just like a doctor appointment is confirmed. It's probably the simplest way to frame it. There are all kinds of businesses that part of their process is confirming the appointment that you have with their business.
This is a bigger, more critical piece than I think people give it credit for. They hear the word confirming appointments. Yeah. You got to confirm appointments. I see it much differently than most, and I'd love to share that. That's, I think, what we're here for. It's like really important part of any business is confirmation. First you got to spend the money, then you get to get the phones to ring and the leads to come in and the customers to walk in. That's valuable. That customer coming into your showroom is extremely valuable today. It's always been valuable, but when I started selling cars, people just came in. They didn't have the internet. I know that's hard for people to believe, but now today, you're fighting for these customers. And if you go up against a competitor that has a Strolid process in place, strong and solid, you're going to lose. Are you going to lose all the time? No. Here's something funny about sales, Sean. No one sells 100% of the opportunities they get. Nobody. Tony Robbins doesn't. Grant Cardone doesn't. None of them do. But you're trying to increase the probability of selling by doing things the right way. You're increasing your business because you do things the right way. They're going to tell other people that you were treated well there. You start messing with customers today, it's hurting your business for tomorrow. And unfortunately, we live in a month-to-month business, so people aren't necessarily thinking about tomorrow. But I do. Like I said, I try to look at my business, whether it was working for a group or working on, for my own company. I look at it from the customer's point of view, because that's really all that matters. To me, my dealers are my customers. I get passionate with my dealers because I care about them and I want them to do well. And sometimes I have to kind of really push them, I think they appreciate that. Confirming appointments, though, I can sum it up very easily. As a dealer, you want to deliver an exceptional experience to your customer, or you don't. The dealer wants the appointment. The customer wants to make sure that when they go to the dealership, it's not painful.
Yeah.
The dealer wants a showroom filled with customers. The dealer wants to make sure when they come in that you're not wasting their time.
Mm-hmm.
When Strolid books an appointment, part of our process is to alert the management team, to call. Part of our process, we alert them immediately as we schedule an appointment. They're part of the process, because when we explain and take on new dealerships, we explain the only way this works is if we work together as a team. We're not necessarily removing you from the process. You're a critical part of the process at the dealership. We're doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you to get that customer to that point. And it is a lot of work, and it's hard work. If it wasn't hard, we wouldn't have a business. If it wasn't hard, dealers wouldn't have trouble turning over BDC people all the time and all this other stuff. It's hard. And you got to get everybody on board to think like a customer. So we say, hey, Mr. Customer, we have dealers that do a little bit differently, but we do ask our dealers management team to confirm the appointments as soon as they get the appointment. So we schedule an appointment today for Friday. Yes, we want to call it right away and confirm it. It's fresh in their mind, but there's more to it. When we close on an appointment, we tell the customer that it's our job to make sure that their visit is quick and efficient when they get to the dealership, and they won't need to repeat themselves. when you get to the showroom, you're going to ask for Joe, the manager, and how that will benefit you is you won't need to repeat yourself. Joe will have all the information you need when you arrive. How does that sound? They love it. Oh, you mean I'm coming in and I don't have to like break that ice with the awkwardness with the sales guy and try to like, him figure out who I am and I figure out who they are, and are they trying to rip me off? No, we're not going to waste your time. This is quick and efficient. That's how we sell the appointment. Now, Joe, the manager, gets the alert. Joe, the manager, calls Sean and says, hey, Sean, I see you got an appointment with us on Friday. I'm really looking forward to meeting you. When you come in, make sure you ask for me. If there's anything I can do for you, when we have a script for that, we go over with our when we do our onboarding. How does that make you feel, Sean, as a customer?
Taken care of, cared for. Like, you're considering my time, you're considering my experience. Like, I think you take it seriously that my time is valuable. So you're gonna take care of it. Absolutely.
And if Joe, the manager, calls and confirms, it's like a Ritz-Carlton type approach, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Approach to your business and to your customers. You're differentiating yourself from every other dealership out there. And it goes a long way. Now, the customer shows up. What are your chances, if you have that car pulled up, what are your chances of selling that versus, just come on in and ask for me, and then you're not there, and someone else comes up and says, hi, how you doing? Can I help you? And they go, I'm supposed to meet Joe, the manager. Oh, he's busy right now. Let me take care of you. You just ruined it.
Yeah. I would even say the last few years have made it too easy for the dealers to become a little, I don't want to say lazy. Actually, I do want to say a little lazy in their thinking and being on top of that, because it's been, we only have a green one. That's it. So get in line. I got 10 other people that want it. Like, supply and demand has been so affected over the last few years that, and it's not, this isn't me beating up on dealers. It just gets really easy to become so relaxed in some of these areas that you're not thinking about it as much. And then what ends up happening is you forget that the customer still expects you to take care of their time and, be considerate of, the experience you're going to provide to them. And all of that to say, it doesn't matter really if you have supply chain issues and you have a lot of inventory or a little bit of inventory. The experience, confirming that appointment, telling me what to expect when I get to your dealership is always critically important. There's like no days off. You always do that.
I'm glad you used the word expectation, because that's like one of my key words in everything that I do. I want to know when I sign up a dealer, what are their expectations for me? I want to make sure that my team knows what my expectations are for them. I want to make sure our employees know what their expectations are from us. And what I tell Josh all the time internally, if we're doing everything that we said we were going to do and the dealer's upset, you deal with it, man. Like, figure it out. Go tell them. Like, let me show you all the things that we're doing the way we said we're going to do it. Just because they're not getting the results that they expected from us doesn't necessarily mean we're doing anything wrong, right? Yeah. And so that's not the only reason, though, by the way, that you confirm appointment, Sean. This is why I wanted to talk on this subject, because there's lots of reasons why you confirm an appointment. The other reason you confirm an appointment, believe it or not, sometimes the customers change their mind. Maybe 2 other dealers called after we booked the appointment and someone else booked an appointment with them at another dealership. How many of those are going to have a manager call in and say, hi, how are you? I'm really looking forward to you coming in.
Yeah.
Maybe they do have a good process at these other dealerships, and that's what makes it competitive, right? And you want to differentiate yourself from your business. So do some things that other businesses are not doing, or do it better than they're doing. That's how you win business. That's how you win anything, is you outperform the competition. Sometimes they say yes to an appointment, but maybe you sold the vehicle.
Yeah, that happens.
It does happen, yeah. And I had way back in the 90s, I had a manager customers would say, I'll come back, I got to think on it. They come back the next day, the car's sold, and they get mad, and he'd be like, hey, it's not a museum.
Yeah.
You can't talk to customers like that anymore, but he used to use that word. It was actually really funny. I actually had trouble not laughing, but you can avoid a heat case, right? by having a customer drive in on a car that might be sold. I mean, understand this too, Sean. The car industry is really interesting. We want to schedule appointments, but we want to make sure we don't get any heat. Well, back in the old days, if you couldn't handle heat, you weren't going to survive in the car business. So today they don't want the heat. Well, then get out of the kitchen. Is that the saying?
Yeah.
Well, the fact of the matter is, I could book an appointment with Sean right now. You're coming down in 3 hours, but someone might be working a deal on that car right now as we speak.
Yeah.
True. I mean, it happens. We've gotten too kind of want everything, served up on a silver platter. And that's not how I was brought up in the business. And, but we will, again, if the dealer is expecting us to do it a certain way, we're going to do it the way they ask us to do it, even if we don't agree. We're going to tell them we don't agree. We're going to push back when they're pushing on us for more appointments. However, that's where there can be some friction, right, between us and the dealer. But most of our dealers respect what we do. And thank God we got a great team here and we got great dealers. So I'm really, really happy with where we're at. But, maybe we could prepare the vehicle ahead of time for them, Sean. Would that wow you if you showed up and Joe, the manager, met you and the car was pulled up? I know dealers do that. Not all of them. The key to selling is building rapport. If you want to build rapport, truly build rapport, you need to show your customer value. You need to solve their problems. One of their problems is they don't want to come in and waste time. They don't want to come in and be harassed. They don't want to. So when we schedule an appointment, we take all that away. We as Strolid, make them feel like they're going to get an exceptional experience. And listen, we're not perfect here. We make mistakes. The dealers make mistakes. Maybe you're not doing it 100% of the time, but maybe if you can set a goal to confirm 80% of your appointments, because you're busy or you got tied up or there's all kinds of stuff that happens during the day. I mean, again, it's hard for a dealer to argue with me because I was in the business for 17 years. I ran a dealership. I was a general manager of a store. So I get it, how busy they are. And one of the reasons why I started Strolid is because I understand how busy they are and I want to help them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Your example of having somebody pull up a vehicle, like not only confirming an appointment, but hey, the vehicle's ready. That's another thing that we've talked about for so long in the industry. And I know that there are a lot of dealers that do that. I also know that that's another area where you get a little relaxed in your staying on your A game. But every time a dealership has done that with me on a vehicle, my first Tundra that I bought, my first Tundra was a 2008 Tundra. It was pre-owned, 2 or 3 years old when I bought it. And you mentioned two things that happened in that experience. One, the rapport. I'll never forget the rapport building with Mike. I won't say his last name. I'm sure he's out there still selling. I will tell you that it was at Bill Utter Ford in Denton, Texas. And I just loved that truck, everything about it. But the rapport building before I got there was great. And they did Mike set expectations. Oh, what time are you getting here? I got there around the time I said I was going to get there. That Tundra was already sitting up front, right? Yep. It was sitting right out in front of the dealership. And I was like, aha. And I walk in and I'm like, hey, I'm looking for Mike Ortiz. And I don't know if there were any people in the show.
He just said his last name.
What's that?
He just said his last name.
Oh, crap. Sorry, Mike. It's all shout out. Mike Ortiz. He was awesome. I don't know if he's still there, but so I asked for him and I have to wait a couple minutes because I'm like, well, they don't know where he's at. Let me page him, So he wasn't right there, but the truck was there. And I started to get nervous. It wasn't quite 5 minutes, but within maybe 3 minutes, all of a sudden he walks in. He's like, hey, Sean, are you ready to go? Let's get a copy of that driver's license. Just immediately into fulfilling the expectations he set with me before I got to the dealership. And it was just literally checkbox, 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 checkbox. And before you knew it, I was all in, driving home in my new to me Tundra. And that was a very great, I wrote a review on both the dealers, at the time, Google My Business page, as well as cars.com, where I had found the Tundra originally. I wrote a review for the dealer in both places because I was so impressed. And I don't write a lot of reviews.
Yeah, and you know, Sean, we have these conversations a lot, and I definitely do not want this to sound like all dealers are terrible and none of them are trying any of this stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's why, you know, I think the last segment we're going to talk about is process, right?
Yeah. Getting kind of back to the basics. That's kind of the third thing I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about is, and we've hinted a little bit about it today already. It's just, I think sometimes we get a little bit too far away from what brought us to the party in the first place, like what customers are expecting in the first place, and oftentimes what dealers know works. And then we get spun up into things that are really nothing but a waste of time, and they kind of take us away from the core of really what makes selling cars still a people business and the magic of all that stuff. We just get too far. I think we start chasing things that are promoted by other people and we get distracted. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do you think that's happening? And do you think there are a lot of things like, I just call it getting back to basics? Maybe there's a better way to frame it, but it feels like it's
a lot of people talking about getting back to basics now. Training's starting to pick up because dealers, I think, you know, are very, very smart. They're great businessmen. And women, they own businesses in local communities. They take care of the communities. They're usually very, very involved in their communities, and they care about. You know, it's funny. I've had some great dealers. I have some great dealers. I've worked with some great dealers, and I've had some bad dealers. And I asked a friend of mine one time, like, you know, who should I focus on? And he said, it's real simple, Vin. Focus. I believe in what you do. Focus on the dealers that care about the name on the building. And I immediately knew what he meant because I worked for a guy like that for a long time. Mm-hmm. And his son at IRA. And he used to have a saying, David Rosenberg used to have a saying when I was a general manager there, if it gets to me, it's free. Meaning, take care of your customers. Because if they get all the way to me, I'm giving them whatever it is that they want. And he did. It used to aggravate me sometimes because some of the customers were just totally out of line. But he didn't care. He cared more about the name on the building than he did about the little bit of money he was losing on the deal to make the customer happy. A very successful organization. So I was blessed to be around a lot of successful people during my days in retail. And they all had that in common, you know, and process. So when you talk about basics, what we've been discussing today is process, Sean. So what is process? Well, you've been saying it, and I don't know if you've noticed, but you've said it a few times today, but it's expectations. I don't ask my people to do things that I wouldn't do myself. But when I think something's going to work or works, I'm going to expect them to do it. We talked about scripting in the past. Oh, how, you know, it's canned and all this other stuff. I can use the scripts we train and not sound canned or scripted. I can follow a process if it makes sense. And one of the things we allow our people to do within Strolid is if they don't like something, they can raise their hand and call bullshit. I learned that from my buddy Jack years ago. And if you know a better way, we'll look at it. And if it works, we'll change our process. But until then, we expect expectations. We expect you to follow the process. There's too many businesses I see that do not have or do not follow any specific process. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing to me how you can let a bunch of employees just kind of wing it. You know, Grant Cardone used to have a saying, you know, professionals have a plan, amateurs wing it. I don't think dealers are stupid. They know this. But why is it that we have so many employees at dealerships that wing it? Who's in control of that? And I can tell you, when we hire somebody here, we hire happy people. We don't hire people and train them to be happy, right? We hire nice people. We don't train them to be nice. That's first criteria. And second criteria is we put them through a bunch of different steps to get hired here. And if they follow along, that means they're compliant, right? They're conscientious. They're doing what they're being asked to do, which is really, really important characteristic when you have employees, because, you know, like Chick-fil-A, you can't go and work there and not treat them the way they asked you to treat them.
Yeah.
My boss used to say, "How do you what temperature what temperature do you cook French fries at McDonald's?" That was one of his questions. You know the answer?
Do I? No.
Yeah. There is no. It doesn't matter. You just press a button, and the French fries cook.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a process. You don't go in and like try to reinvent how to cook French fries at McDonald's, right? Like, it is millions of examples of process out there that if you follow it and it makes sense and it saves time and it's more efficient and it makes the customer happy, why would you change it? But I would. One of the takeaways here, Sean, is I would challenge some dealers. Like, what is your process?
Yeah.
Do you have a well-defined process? So we just explained how we schedule an appointment. We let them know that the manager's going to meet them. We let them know that they're going to confirm that appointment. Well, we don't let them know that. We part of the process is to have the manager confirm the appointment, meet the customer, and the rest is increase, employee satisfaction, customer satisfaction, more sales, more money. That's the reason you follow a process, right? Within the dealership process, do you have a standard meet and greet that you train your salespeople? Or do they say, "Can I help you?" And as an owner of a dealership, would you want your employees to say, "Can I help you?" I'll guarantee you 999 out of 1,000 will say no. But then why does that happen? Why does it happen that, would you want, as a consumer in your reaching out to your own business, to call, ask for a price of a car, and be told you have to come into the showroom to get the price today? Because that still happens. So, like, what is the process? What are the outcomes you're looking for? What are the expectations that you have for your employees on how to handle these situations? That's critical right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we could talk on and on about basic fundamentals on, meet and greet, needs analysis, walk around presentation, go to the service department and show them service, bring them back. Hopefully by that time, the desk has a pencil ready for you, and with the trade figured into the numbers, and you can present the customer with numbers. That's how I grew up in the car business. That's how strong the process was, how strong the process was when I used to sell cars. I walked into dealerships and I'm like, oh my God, like these three people, this couple has been with this salesperson for like 3 hours. I've never even seen them, writing anything down or, like what are they doing? What have they been doing for 3 hours? Or they stand out in the lot and they just walk around and then they leave. And, as the sales manager doesn't even say, "Hey, who was that guy you were just with outside?" "Oh, I don't know. He didn't want to give me his information." Like, there's ways to get that customer's information. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so many processes and basics that we could talk about. But from a BDC standpoint, Sean, really, basic fundamental process is to make sure the leads answered properly, professionally, and quickly. Quickness is key to BDC process, but also professionally, you want to answer the questions. You don't want to just send out something just to stop the clock. You want to call it the lead as quickly as possible. You want to make sure that you're answering any incoming phone calls. That's your first priority. I should have said that first. This is how we have our day-to-day worked out. Priority follow-up is next, meaning any customer that we scheduled an appointment or that we've been engaged with or we said we would get back to, those are the first follow-ups that you do. Then you go to all the unengaged follow-up, and you try to engage with the ones that haven't engaged with you. Meanwhile, when you do engage with a customer, if you can get an appointment, great. If you cannot, we TO that to the dealership if we believe there might be something the dealership can do to get that appointment. Because they're asking questions that maybe we can't answer, like what is my trade worth, or I have bad credit, or whatever. We have objection handling for all of those. Like, I understand about your credit. A lot of our customers are in the same situation as you. We work with many different banks, blah, blah, blah. And, or, the price objection, we could say, I understand about the price, but if the car turned out to be exactly the way you wanted it, Sean, would you at least consider it for that price? No, I wouldn't. Okay, well, what are you comparing it to? They say, oh, I looked at another place and they're only selling it at MSRP, not $2,000 over, whatever the situation might be. Now we can go into the dealer and say, hey, look this is what the guy said. What do you want to do? And then when we get the appointment, we follow through with that benefit to you, is we're going to save you time, make your visit with us more efficient and enjoyable. All the notes go into the CRM. All the CRM tasks are completed on a daily basis. All this process is stuff we've been doing for a long, long time here at Strolid, to make sure, like I mentioned before, if a dealer's upset, I'll tell Josh, are we doing everything that we're supposed to be doing for them?
It's fascinating that, you can just take kind of three elements at the top level of being able to just improve your BDC efforts, your sales process efforts. Maybe you're inside of a dealership that doesn't use a traditional BDC model, but you're still executing or needing to be executing on all of these process points. We take just these three areas, and I listen to your voice of experience, and I'm like almost overly surprised, more surprised than I want to be, that there are these fundamentals. I mean, it's like you and I both love baseball, and I coached my son baseball for years. You were a football coach for years. There are fundamentals in football. There are fundamentals in baseball. Just your work in the middle infield, and where your head should be down on a ball, and how you're looking it into a glove, and be light with your hands. And there's all these for every single position there are. And inside of a dealership, there's some of that as well. You can break down by role. But once you get to the process of what a dealership is doing, we sell and service vehicles. That's our primary purpose. Mm-hmm. That all of the things that really define the most successful dealers, and I am going to step out on a limb and say that Strolid's most successful dealers check these boxes, or most of these boxes, and the ones that don't still have to get these pieces right before they see, okay, we just improved our sales process, our BDC, that has to happen. And I take that as an encouragement, because I think for dealers, sometimes we get so far down the rabbit hole of what's happening with electric vehicles, or what's happening with, supply and demand, and some brands are rebounding faster than others, but we get so
or AI or digital retailing.
We get so pigeonholed into something that we forget that, confirming the appointment and actually having scripts and things, parts of our process that we break down to make sure that the appointment confirmation is something that we slam dunk every time, because we know that the customer has expectations set then, and all the things we were talking through. That's just one element that I think some people can be really dismissive of, because it's like, I've heard this for 20 years. Mm-hmm. Okay, well then why is it still a problem all these years later? Because it is a lot of these. It's a
whole psychological problem that we could discuss for hours, but it comes down to one thing: like, do you want to win? Do you want to beat your competition? Do you want to differentiate yourself? Do you want your customers to brag about you? Do you want your customers to say great things about you? Do you want customers for life? Like, a lot of dealers use that slogan. And, I understand why we do what we do. I just don't understand why we do what we do. And it's not the owner's fault of the dealership. These owners and general managers, they want everything that I'm saying. Sean, we should do a topic on turnover, because that is where I see the biggest problems with dealers that struggle. The good dealers have good teams, that have been together a while. Sure, they lose a player here and there, but they replace them and know how to train them and know how to get them ready.
Well, I got some good feedback on that last week, because we touched on it a little bit in a recent episode, and I actually had some folks that I know, it seems like, does anybody listen? Like I said, most people are seeing the chopped up versions of our content. more than the full episode. But from a full episode person that listens actually to all of them, they reached out to me personally and said how much they wish we would actually go in a little deeper on the turnover side of the house. So I think you're on.
But you know, the funny thing is, you could surmise everything that we're saying as a dealer and say, am I doing some of these steps? Could that be a reason for some turnover? I think employees want to understand what is expected of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, one of the problems in selling is you get thrown in, you either succeed or you fail. And some people can deal with that, but very few. I think it comes down to like 18%. But anyway, I think we're coming to the end here. I just wanted to, review. Hopefully, everybody got a lot out of the pricing piece.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think all these things are important. Confirmation call, that's a critical part of the process. If you want to increase your show ratio, make your customers, stand out, be exceptional. And then last but not least, process. Each one of these we could spend just probably one podcast on, because
for sure. But I like that. And, for the audience that will kind of, take opportunities more often than not now to maybe break down 2 or 3 components, shorten the episodes a little bit, but make them a little more concise. And this particular one, for all of you listening, pricing vehicles is extremely important. If you didn't get that at the top of the episode as we're going through that, just remember price transparency is still important to your customers. Knowing your market is critically important. If you don't spend time, like in the old school days, I'm sure you had, and I only did the retail sales thing for a couple of years on the weekend, Vinny, so I don't have your experience with it, but I certainly know being in those sales meetings when the GSM's holding up the big newspaper ad and talking through what everybody else is doing, there's still the modern version of knowing what's going on digitally with your customers. You gave a couple of really strong examples with the Colorado that the dealership continued to lower the price on, and then wondering, whoa, why are we getting like more than half of this whole lead mix for the month on this one vehicle? You gave the Prius example of what happened with Prius pricing during, supply and demand of it. This has happened a couple of times with fuel efficient or hybrid models where something's going on in the economy, gas prices, you gave the examples on pricings of people that are selling over MSRP. There's been a lot of that in the last few years. It's not the first time that's ever been the case. There's been a lot of times where people have dealer add-on fees, whatever you call them. The last few years isn't the first time we've seen that either. But communicating that and making sure that everybody on your team knows that you have a pricing strategy, that you've reviewed it recently, that you talk about it, and everyone knows what's going on, so that your BDC, your salespeople, all of that is getting executed the right way. That's, I would say, on that point, as we close out each of these segments, for a dealership, if you have not reviewed your pricing strategy and methodology recently, you absolutely need to, and then it needs to become part of something that you talk about all the time, that you're always on the right page. Confirming appointments, You mentioned it. It's critical to the customer experience. If there's nothing else that you would take away from, why do we want to confirm appointments, right? Or, okay, come on. The customer's expectation gets set pretty much.
Get to that point where you just said, and you're letting the tail wag the dog, as they say.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I'm not trying to sound like a hard ass here, Sean, but if you work for me and I ask you to do something, I expect it to get done. If you ask me to do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
We have to work together. And expectations is what I keep harping on that you kept bringing up. Expectations might be the key to the answer to all of these questions. What are your expectations for your people? What do you expect your customers their experience to be like? And is that happening?
Yeah. When you're, and on the appointments, I would tell dealers, that's another thing to ask yourself. Do you know your process? Do you know what expectations you're setting in your appointment confirmation process? Because essentially you're giving yourself the opportunity to tell the customer, hey, this is how we're going to treat you. This is what to expect when you get here. Ask for these people. You're basically shaping the impression of what's going to happen once they get to the dealership. And then it's just a matter of, okay, well, you did that and you consistently do it with every customer. Now hit a home run when they show up. Because if you immediately start, hitting home runs based on how you set the thing up in the first place, if that doesn't have a dramatic improvement on your closing ratio and how many customers are happy, but also what they say about you online and like
the referrals you get. I mean, it
right,
goes on.
Reputation managed. Yeah, it's the whole deal.
Are you really looking to build a business, or you're looking to just close out a month strong with high gross? You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I love money. So I'm not saying gross is a bad thing. I'm just saying that can't be the only thing that you focus on. That's all.
It can't. And the last thing I'll say on the getting back to basics and the process piece, you and I have talked about this for years on podcast episodes, in our personal conversations, when we talk about marketing. Oftentimes people are chasing after the next new marketing thing that's going to deliver a bucket load of leads that they didn't have previously. And so they're going to sell more because they found more leads. And it's always about leads. And it's never about, well, what process exists first before you go and find this new pot of gold? It's great if you can find the new pot of gold. It's great if you can find the new, this lead source is the king of all lead sources. Okay, great. But if you didn't have the process to make sure that all that stuff was going to be handled in the first place, you're probably going to blame the wrong party for why things didn't work right. So I would say, what is your sales process? What's your sales process at the dealership? And when's the last time that you personally, as a general manager or a general sales manager, or maybe you're even a very active dealer principal, when is the last time that you sat down with your team and that you understood that as if you were playing yourself as a customer, right?
Yeah, and if you have to blend the sales process with the BDC process, why not go with a company like ours that already has a well-defined process that you don't have to train or teach or something?
Yes.
Like that's why I started Strolid, is because I know how hard it is to run a dealership, Sean. I know how hard dealers work to do all the things we're saying, and I'm trying to save them. You just worry about the people in the showroom and your salespeople and the managers. Let us worry about the process to that point. And I know we do it well. So,
yeah, yep. That's the beauty of what you do and what you offer is that you help dealers understand the critical importance of all these things. And there's going to be a pretty decent number of them that say, once they understand that, like, gosh, we need help with that.
Yeah.
Okay, where are you going to find that help? Well, you're going to find that with Strolid. Right. So, well, this is a good place to land the plane. So, hey, regarding the episode, if you like it, you love it, none of the above, we still want to hear from you. Dealer Insights Podcast gets better with your comments and questions and feedback. Like last week, I had somebody literally hit me on a text and then call me and say, hey, I love this episode. We love it that you're consuming the content. We do chop it up in a lot of places to make it easy for you to get to, but we love it when you give us some comments and thoughts. And we've definitely seen some of those, especially in the YouTube channel. So we appreciate it. If you would prefer to send us a comment, you can do that at info@Strolid, STROLID.com. Until that time, well, stay strong and solid. You'll never miss.